Good Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in on this Sunday, the 28th of November, 2021. Glad to have you guys here. Now, here's what I want to talk about today. Guess what? We got yet another new variant of the disease. It's called the, well, let's get in there. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look. World is put on high alert over the Omicron coronavirus variant. It's a new variant. What do we know about it so far? Not an awful lot, except that it is more transmissible. It says the new mutation, which is potentially more transmissible, was first discovered in South Africa and has since been detected in Australia, United Kingdom, Germany, Israel, Italy, the Czech Republic, and Hong Kong. So it's spreading around mighty fast. More transmissible than Delta. You remember the original coronavirus that came through, that first started in Wuhan, China? Well, that was very transmissible. We know because it spread all around the earth. But Delta was far more transmissible than the original. Now this one evidently could be more transmissible than Delta. So, first discovered in South Africa, and now this could be our big black swan. This could be an enormous black swan to the financial markets. Well, what are we already seeing here? We've seen, let's take a look at the Dow Jones where it closed on news of this. The news first struck, down 905 points in one day. We got Monday. The markets are going to open up. The thing I'm thinking to myself in my head is maybe these guys that are selling are making a huge mistake. Huge mistake in selling the market right now. Might be a huge mistake, especially being as we're down 905 points. And let me explain to you guys why. What buoyed these markets to where they are now? Do you guys all remember what happened? We had the release of the original virus. And the markets tanked. They tanked. And then we had a reaction from the Fed. And that reaction from the world's central banks, which was a loosening of monetary policy, is what's driven these markets up to where they are today, to these great enormous heights. Do you really believe that they can't print money anymore? Or not? Well, actually, they don't print it, but do you really believe that they can't create new monetary units anymore for some reason that they can't do it? All they need is a reason. This black swan might be the reason. What are they going to have to do if the world has to go back on lockdown again? And it's, I mean, you can't argue, because it's already begun in some countries. Basically, the world is South Africa. South African countries is no bueno, no go there. It's just like that's off limits now. We get this virus come through. We're going to have to wait and see yet. It's early days. This could be an enormous black swan in the fact that it could create massive lockdowns around the world. And what does lockdowns mean? It means basically shutting down the economy, the general economy out there. People have to stay home. They can't even go shopping. Well, you guys already know, you've already been there, you've already done that, you already know what it's like. You already know how it impacts the economy. We're not completely over what's happened before with all the lockdowns and stuff. You also know that the central banks around the world have to support the people during the lockdown. If they're going to lock everything down, they're going to have to support the people. And that means more money creation. And that's what drove the markets up to where they are now. Now the markets are starting to fall. They might be going in the wrong direction, because if this thing turns out to be a lockdown situation, we could go back into a situation where the central banks have to start to print. Now, it's early days yet. I don't know if this is going to happen, but by gosh, it could very well happen. Or let's put it this way. What would you guys out there, if I'm questioning you right now, and you know the news, you've heard this in the news, this thing's coming, right? Spreading fast or whatever. What do you think they're going to do? I'm asking you guys personally. Do you guys think that they're just going to stand there and they're going to say, okay, Omicron's spreading all over the place, according to their data? Do you think they're going to say, hey, we're going to leave everything open? Or do you think they're going to shut everything? Now, the next question I want to ask you is, if they shut everything, do you think that they're going to leave those people without support? Or do you think that they're going to go into new emergency stimulus measures? And what effect do you think new emergency stimulus measures will have on the markets? Because before, it pumped them up to these obscenely high highs. Now, here's another thing I want to mention to you guys that you might be overlooking. If they pump these markets up high, and let's just say they go there. Let's say it's new lockdowns, fresh lockdowns around the world, and new stimulus on top of what we already had that caused the inflation we already have. Do you guys think that that's going to cause more inflation or less? That's going to make the markets go down or up? I'm going to vote that it's going to make all the markets, including the price of everything, go up enormously. First off, it puts lockdowns like that, put a tremendous snag on industry. It slows down production of almost everything. You see what it's done to the shipping and what it's done to shortages it's created and things. Well, we're not over that yet. We're going to go back into that again? What would happen? Increasing shortages on everything. Prices have to go up because you just don't have enough supply of everything out there. Prices start to go up enormously. Then what happens? You know, if you got the government stimulating too at the same time. This just seems to me that they've walked us up, financially speaking, in the financial markets and everything. What they've done is they've walked us up to the edge of a cliff right now. And the Fed has come in and they've said, monetary policy. We're going to back you guys away from the cliff. We're going to do a taper. This is what the Fed said. We're going to back you guys away from the cliff. We're going to take 2 steps away from the cliff because we're going to do a taper. FOMC preview. How to make tapering data dependent. Says we remain firm that the Fed is on course to implement tapering this year, but the question is how to link the tapering process to a set of economic variables that sugarcoat the process from being triggered if the economic momentum falters. What could falter economic momentum more than anything is Omicron. Lockdowns. FOMC, their whole tapering schedule is all data dependent. Meaning that if they lose economic momentum or it falters, goodbye taper. In fact, they could potentially increase their bond purchase programs instead of tapering them. It's like the Fed has walked us up to the financial system, up to an edge of a cliff. And now they say, okay, we're going to take 2 steps back. But in Omicron configuration, they might be forced to take those steps off the edge of the cliff, which would cause economic chaos in the form of prices on everything increasing even faster than they are now. So instead of thinking 6.25% consumer inflation, consumer price index, perhaps very soon, the official, now I'm talking about the official, unofficially it's probably about 15% or something like that. Talking about the official consumer price index. If they push us over this cliff, we could double that. So the official consumer price index is like 12.5%, something like that. If we have to go back to stimulus, not just regular stimulus, but fiscal stimulus, where they have to start sending out stimmy checks again, things like that, to support the people, because everything could start to grind to a grinding halt in the entire system. And of course, the only thing that they have is to be able to create more new monetary units. And we're in a knife's edge right now. If you create more of these new monetary units, we're going to see inflation increase like you've never seen it before. Wages will have to go up. Everything will have to start going up. And once you set that process in place, then it requires more and more money coming in on the other end to keep things going. You can't let it deflate. This is like a process where it's like a revolving wheel. It builds up momentum, and you have to keep bringing more new currency units on the other end to support the ever-increasing amount of currency units it takes to purchase everything. It's a vicious cycle. It's called hyperinflation. That's what it's called. It's happened in many countries before. There's been very notable hyperinflations. But generally it's specific to just one country. It's never been the world reserve currency before has went into a hyperinflation. This has never happened before. But we've never faced a situation like this before. Okay, this could be the biggest black swan I've ever reported on this channel. Or it's also data dependent. They really don't know just yet about Omicron. Big factors they don't know. How deadly is it? Don't know. Is it going to cause some sort of immune system problems or anything like that? They don't know. They're pretty sure that it's more transmissible. That they feel fairly confident about, but I don't really think they fully know that yet either. This is so new, this information is so new, that we're going to have to wait a few weeks to start getting these answers in. But I got to get the news out to you guys quick and effectively. Yes, we got a problem. Let's take a look at the crypto market. See, what's happening right now is we have the markets in a period of dropping because they think that the Fed's going to drop the hammer and the economy's going to drop too. So all they see is a downward spiral. The economy's going to go down, new lockdowns, and then they see the markets are falling right now, and they see money drying up because the Fed's going to taper. And this is the feeling right now in the markets, and that's why they're dropping. But they might be going in the wrong direction. Maybe they should be going up, because if this thing's really bad and they lock everything down, the stimulus is going to start to flow again. And the talk of taper will be gone out the window. We could be right back to square one all over again, with stimmy checks all going out to support the economy and relief for renters and all that. Remember the whole scene, we might be going on 2.0 on all of this. And if that happens, you remember what it did to the markets? You remember what it did to house prices? Do you remember what it did to cryptocurrencies? Do you remember what it did to almost the price of everything except for gold and silver? Okay, so I got another thing to talk to you guys about. I'm going to turn the well, let's take a look at the silver price real quick before I turn the charts off. 2309 for silver today. Isn't that cheap? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's turn the charts off. You know, I was thinking about something last night. I might be wrong about something. I said that they're going to keep the core of the system running and the peripheries are going to end up going down. I might be wrong about that. I might have it in reverse. Maybe it's the core of the system that's going to fail. Because I got thinking about this last night, and I said, okay, the periphery. Say you're out in the country someplace, you know. You got a big farm or whatever, and the farmer, he's got his own generators, and he's got a tractor that can run a generator, and he's got, even if the power goes out, he can still have electricity, and he's got all this equipment, and he's got food prepared for himself, and he's got everything he needs. He's out in the country, he's got a big piece of land, you know. And then look at the city dwellers. They are right in here with this system. This is vulnerable. If the electrical grid goes down, the city takes more power than anything else on the grid. Cities take a tremendous amount of power. Where did these cities come from originally to begin with? Well, what happened is people settled in the rural areas, and then they formed a small town at first, and then the town grew into a city. But it was fed by the rural areas around it that surrounds the city. That's what fed the city. And it's still what feeds the city. I got thinking about this for a minute, you know. What part of the system is corrupted? Well, it's the city part that's corrupted. And the reason why it's corrupted is the monetary system is not based on reality. It's based on a fantasy. This Fugazi monetary units. It's like, what the heck is it? It's like, now it's just a digital ledger. And now they're going to have to keep inflating it into infinity. It's corrupted. It's going to fail. It's prone to failure. But what about the people that live out in the country out there? A lot of them got gold and silver. A lot of them are in the gold, silver coins and things like that. City dwellers, they don't even know what gold and silver is. They got all their money on their phone. Or in a plastic card in their purse. And they don't even carry cash anymore. You go out in the country, you know, you're going to find every old farmer's got a little bunch of cash put away someplace in a tin can someplace on the mantle. You know, but not in the city. So the people in the country are kind of prepared. They are also where the food's produced for the city. I got thinking about this. Maybe I've got it completely backwards. Maybe it's the cities that are going to collapse with somewhat urban centers of somewhat 70 to 80% of the population live, and maybe it's the people out in the country, you know, that are not going to collapse. Maybe they're going to come to some sort of an order, or order will be restored. I'm going to tell you, if you're going to have some sort of a situation where there's civil unrest or anything like that, you have to have it in an urban setting. You can't have it out in the middle of the woods. And nobody's going to, I mean, they could have it, but nobody even know about it. You're going to have reporters there, and you're going to have, you know, like some sort of a situation. Generally, it's always in a place where there's a lot of people. It's never out in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere. Well, they could have something like that out in the country, out in the middle of nowhere, but nobody would pay any attention to it. Nobody would even know, you know. So, you know, you could have a situation in the world where the world is got some sort of a collapse ongoing. And if you're out in a peaceful location out in the country, you wouldn't even know it's happening unless you tuned into the news. So maybe I'm thinking wrong, or I think the peripheries are going to collapse. Maybe it's not the peripheries or out in the country that's going to collapse. Maybe it's the city centers and stuff that are going to collapse. And this is kind of what we saw, beginnings of this, back during the origins of the COVID crisis. Do you remember when they had fires burning in the cities, and their people were, you know, all the stuff that was going on with during the beginning of the COVID crisis. Of course, that cleared up, but it wasn't out in the country that all that stuff was going on. It was in the cities and in the urban centers is where the problems were. So maybe I got it backwards. You know, I got thinking about this last night. I said, maybe I got it backwards. Maybe it's the densely populated areas that are gonna, because that's the money that they use, the corrupted money. The people out in the country, if the urban centers and everything all collapsed, the people out in the country wouldn't be able to use that money because it lose value so fast. Say, let's just say for instance, let's say it's $1. You know, they wouldn't be able to use it because it would collapse so fast in value. It wouldn't be worth anything. If the people out in the country would instantly go back to barter, and they would go back to the fungibility of gold and silver. Just, it would be a default sort of thing because we don't have anything else to use. If there was some sort of a collapse, I'm just saying, you know. That's my take on it anyway, and we're living in such an uncertain world right now. I mean, okay, let's go back 48 hours ago, and I didn't even know about this Omicron thing. This has come out of nowhere. It's come out of left field, and I'm doing a show on it for you guys now, 48 hours later. And I'm like, wow. This world is off the hook in the amount of uncertainty level that we have going on right now. Uncertainty about our future. It's a what do they call that? A chaos theory or something like that, where it's kind of like snow building up on the side of a mountain, and it gets so heavy in the end you have to have avalanches. And it's kind of like we're going through this period of avalanches caused by our own hubris of building this enormous, complex, very complex system that we have now that does function. But what about when variables come along that cause it not to function? Or could cause it not to function? We've put all of our reliance in this system. We don't have any redundant systems in place to protect us and offer us assistance if there's a system failure. And so an awful lot of people have seen this problem, and they've said to themselves, hey, we're going to get out there and we're going to become self-sufficient. We're going to have a small farm, whatever, you know. But it's difficult, because if the situation did happen, you know, how long before the system would be able to support people again? Or would the system just collapse and stay down? We're living in such an uncertain world right now. This has gone beyond haywire. You know, and here we go again. You know, how big is this thing going to be? How big is this Omicron thing going to be? Is it going to be something that's going to last a month or two and fizzle out? Or are we going to be having problems with this going into next year? 3 months from now, 6 months from now, is this going to be a huge problem? Is it? That's uncertainty for our future. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys Monday morning with a market report. Really appreciate my audience out there. I try to keep you guys informed of the latest when it's breaking. And this is a big breaking story. This is huge. Don't start thinking that this is nothing. This is really big, because in my mind, it doesn't really matter. I know an awful lot of people out there, they have differing opinions regarding the sickness. The opinions vary so widely, it's unbelievable. But that doesn't really matter so much. It's what the authorities are going to implement that matters. What are they going to do? Because regardless of your opinion, that's not going to change what they're going to do. If you get what I'm saying. We'll catch you guys on Monday. You guys have a great afternoon, and bye-bye for now.